What's going on, guys? As 2017 comes to a close, it's time to do that thing that we've done every year since the channel got started. You know, once. It's time for the SHOKY class of 2017 builds. And of course, we've been through quite a lot this year, and in digging through basically all these big empty boxes behind me here, I found out that really a lot of the kits I built this year were not from 2017 and were in fact leftovers from 2016. So I thought this list was going to be much longer than it was. So what we're going to do is look at all the 2017 kits that I've completed within this year. Some you guys may not have seen quite yet because they're actually not reviewed as of yet. Some of these things will look obviously familiar if you're no strangers to the channel, and some things you're gonna notice there's a bit of a trend because there were a lot of specific kits that came out this year. But first and foremost, I want to go over what the rules are here, what my scale was. First and foremost, we go over quality of the build. You know, how good was it? How good is the plastic? Does it nub? Does it take a lot of stickers to complete the look? Not just adding little things, little detail stickers, stuff like that doesn't go into it, but stickers to complete it. Like a lot of these HGs have a ton of stickerage. If it required a lot of painting, now any painting that I chose to do, not painting that is meant to complete the figure, doesn't go into that. But also is just everything about it, is the design quality, is the overall satisfaction of it good, you know? And everything is on a 1 to 10 scale. The next thing we look at is, of course, articulation. How articulate is the thing? Can it move? Does it have double jointed elbows, double jointed knees? Are the shoulders stupid? Does it butterfly forward, back, whichever direction? And that matters a lot in a lot of these kits. So, of course, that's going to score. Some of these things are massively articulate. Some of these things are, you wish they were a lot more articulate. But the next thing we look at, or I look at rather, is fun. So, was it fun to build? Is the overall kit more fun? Does it, you know, is it a little bit playable? You know, it's more of a subjective thing. Like, is it fun to me? Not necessarily to you. Was the build itself kind of exciting? Was there something there that really, you know, just got you going? You're like enjoying the build. This doesn't really fall under quality. It comes down to just that personal feeling of enjoyment and maybe even happiness that you get from the kit, from building it, or even like just the overall end result. Was it fun? Is it fun to mess with? Is it fun to pose? Are the gimmicks fun? Are they stupid? Things like that. They're a little bit more subjective. Other things, the articulation and the quality, that's more quantifiable. But just like the final classification, which is coolness. Now, fun and cool may go hand in hand, but realistically, cool goes more into the design. Also, it's like, man, that thing is cool, or man, it's kind of lame, like for what it is. You know, those things. The coolness is probably a little less subjective than fun, but it's definitely a factor because you want to build something cool. You want to build something that looks awesome, stuff like that, you know. So those are the 4 qualifying factors for how we're going to score everything. So with all that being said, guys, this is the class of 2017 in all its glory. And for once, we have different classes this year. We've actually got, well, I guess more, yeah, we got different classes. We've got MG Division back there. We've got this one guy right here. We even have Star Wars kits. But as you guys can see, there was a very specific type of kit or series that is definitely represented in this set because that is the way 2017 worked out. So these are all of the entries, all of the Gundam kits, all of the kits from 2017 that I managed to complete in this year. And of course, we have to have our buddy Wally in the mix. Now, of course, just laying them out like this doesn't mean that this is any indication of their ranking, guys. But, you know, it may or may not be a lie. We'll see. But let's go ahead and get to the actual breakdown. Now there's a whole new type of kit in consideration this year. It's not just Gunpla, it is also Bandai model kits from Star Wars. And while I've done 3 this year, only 2 were from 2017. You've got the YWing and you've got the First Order TIE Fighter. And realistically, it's not a big mystery, judging by the same standards as the rest of the Gunpla kits. The TIE Fighter wins out. I'm sorry, the YWing. Pointing at the right one. The YWing wins out overall in coolness, in quality. Even though this thing is ridiculously intricate and difficult to build, it was more fun. I really, truly enjoyed building this. This was a huge pain in the butt most of the time. Even though this was a ton of work, I upped my game to make it look this good. I had fun actually increasing my skills to weather and paint and make something this awesome. The TIE Fighter, while it isn't bad by any means, it just doesn't even match up. And this ridiculous stand that doesn't even hold the thing straight also kind of works against it. The fact that you make an entire interior that you can't see because almost all of it is black. You put stickers on the inside that you can't see because you can't really even open the cockpit. This thing is significantly better in every way. So definitely the the YWing is the best Star Wars kit I built all year long. Now, on top of doing the Star Wars kits, there is also other kits that actually got to compete this year, and that is, of course, Master Grade. Now, of course, the only 3 2017 Master Grades that I actually managed to accomplish, and by the way, that took me by surprise because I actually thought some of those other kits were, in fact, newer, but they weren't. It's just, what it is. Of course, we had the XN Riser, the Sandrock Custom that just came out, and then the MG Justice up here. Now, they were all fairly close, only separated by about 2 to 3 points total. Now, this may come as a surprise, but the 00 won. Not by much. It won by 20 with 29 points, and it's just basically winning out on slightly better quality than the Justice, which came in second. But then they flip-flop when it comes to articulation. I think that the Justice itself is freed up to have a little bit more articulation than the 00. While it does work really well, the backpack hinders so much of what it can do. Now, of course, if you can get it on a stand, that could maybe be a different story. But, I mean, they're 1 point apart. So, realistically, they're almost completely interchangeable. But now, where things it drops down, the fun factor drops way down on the 00 riser. I actually did not have that much fun working on it. It was kind of a pain. While I really liked the kit, it was a bear. The backpack was annoying. The swords were broken and kind of annoying. That also falls under quality. But, overall, it just barely wins out on the massive cool factor because, well, it's a 00 riser with a ton of stuff on it. Whereas the Justice loses a lot of the fun, and some of the cool factor just drops off. It's not quite as cool as Freedom, in my opinion. Also, the quality, I think the plastic feels cheaper. The frame isn't anywhere near as hefty, and I just don't dig it. And while the Sandrock Custom came in last of 3, it's not exactly bad by any means. It's just kind of right down the middle. Everything about it is just good. Nothing is outstanding. The price holds it back a little bit in the fact that, even though I don't have everything here, the cloak is very hindering. You don't really get a lot of the actual Gundam when you get the gimmick that you get it for. So, I mean, that's where it falls out on the bottom. But the Gundam by itself is fantastic. So that's very good. And of course, being what these were, this was obviously the most expensive one. I didn't really let that weigh against it, but the fact that they made it P Bandai may have hurt it just a little bit in that cool factor. It's dropped down because it's just not that cool. But otherwise, these 3 were really good kits. I do want to tackle more Master Grade builds in 2018. And we've already started off good. We got 3 already, or 4 sitting over there already. I keep forgetting there's a different one. So we'll get to those. And hopefully, you know, even though we'll be behind, I want to get some more of the 2017 kits built because the engineering is getting better, even if it does feel a little bit flimsy, like some of the bits on this guy up here. But let's go ahead and move on to the main event. Alright guys, before we go too much further, I wanted to show this as a bit of a sense of scale. Because, you know, on a set of, you know, 1 to 10, of course, you can score a total of 40, given the, you know, the system I've laid out. What I wanted to show here, with just these kits, is what is essentially right in the middle. All of these guys scored a 29. So they're all tied for different reasons, be it quality, like the Efreet has quality issues with all the sheer amount of stickers and paint work you have to do just to make it look right. However, it's really, really cool. It's actually very articulate, stuff like that. And then the same thing like over here, where you've got the Ride and Go. It's very articulate. It's pretty cool, but the quality is down a little bit, and the fact that it's P-Bandai also hurts it a little bit. The Conroy's Jagan also, it's pretty much right down the middle on all the scoring. And a couple of these things, obviously, we haven't looked at yet, but, you know, that is what it is. But this is what I wanted to show you. For kits like these are all the, like, mid-range, right down the middle kits, where a lot, well, I say right down the middle, everything that we're going to look at is either below this or above it. So that's just an idea of the scale. So this is pretty much the cutoff point. Everything above this, everything 30 and above, is what beat this, and everything that is 28 and down is worse than this. So that'll give you guys a good sense, because you guys know I loved quite a bit of these, especially the Roe, but it has its issues. You know, a lot of the stickers, placements, and stuff like that. But everything else about it is great. And then, you know, the Gray's Ritter. It is what it is. It's really, really cool. It's very, very articulate, but the stickers and everything that come with it kind of hurt it a little bit. So that's just an idea of that. And I just really wanted to show that off to give an idea before we got into the best and worst kits list. Now, one thing, guys, I'll tell you right up front. The worst kits, realistically, numerically, were the petite guys and the Cara guys, or Chara guys, that my wife completed. Now, technically, I didn't build those, so I kind of took them off the list. I thought about it, I was like, I ranked them, but due to their super limited articulation and stuff like that, they really couldn't score very high. So it was kind of unfair to have them on this list. So I went ahead and removed them. So what we're going to look at now is the bottom 5. So the worst kits that we've looked at. And I'm going to look at them in descending order so we can see the worst kit that I've worked on all year. Alright guys, so bringing up number 5. So this is the highest scoring, low ranked kit we've had all year long. Drum roll please. And it is the Gundam Ground Type S from Thunderbolt. And guys, that should show you realistically how the scoring system works. This guy is not bad. That's also why he's basically like, you know, the best of the worst. So he's at the top. So the articulation is actually pretty good. He does come with some cool stuff, but the quality isn't great. But the fun factor is also kind of low. He's not super fun. He wasn't very fun to build. Now, I can't knock off all the paint I did to make it look a little bit better, because that was all on me. Now, it didn't require a lot of paint to complete, and of course the stickers are all there for effect. They're not there to complete the look. And like I said, it's in the completing of the look that really matters. I mean, I like the kit, but like I said, it is definitely the best of the worst. So that's gonna be it. So let's move on. Coming in at number 4 on the worst list is the Gundam Tristan. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably wanted this thing to be at the bottom because everyone was saying when it first came out that it's the worst kit of 2017. And while it has its issues, I said from the beginning, it's not terrible. The articulation is pretty good for what it is. Now, the quality is down. So you have to paint a lot. You have to apply a lot of stickers to complete the look. So therefore the quality is down. It's using some older engineering, which, saps a little bit of it. But I think it's fun and I think it's cool. And like I said, this is a very subjective list. This is me looking at it from my point of view and if I like it or not. And I do. I think it's a really cool kit. And there's a lot of people who actually do really appreciate this kit for what it is. So that's why it's definitely not the worst. Is it in the bottom 5? Sure. I knew it would be. But it is by no means the worst. And speaking of, let's go ahead and see what the next one on the list is. So the third worst kit of 2017 is the Papa Guy from Gundam Build Fighters Island Wars. And while this guy really does kind of top it when it comes to coolness and fun, that's probably where it mostly hits. It's not super articulate. It's a bear guy, so the arms are pretty limited. While they can move, the elbows are super limited. The knees might be pretty good, but you don't really get a whole lot in the way of ankles. The head is what it is. Only realistically the cool factor, and maybe even the quality. The quality isn't terrible by any means. You only get stickers to complete the look, and that's it. But everything else about it is actually pretty decent. But it's just that it's super limited in what it is. And, of course, it's a bear guy, and they've kind of run their course. There's a lot that they have done with this kit already, and it just sort of played out. So that's why it comes in at third best, whereas its children, so to speak, are all at the bottom. Now, there is a problem with the quality of stickers. Pretty much all of them are peeling with the exception of the bow tie. So that does bother me. So let's go ahead and move on from the cool little dapper dude to the second worst kit of the year. And it is EOX Regional A's. Now, given the 2016 list, where pretty much one of the worst kits that there ever was of that year was the Regional A's, it shouldn't be a giant shock that there's another one on this list. So, and actually in the same place. It was in second place. Now, something that does really get this thing is a bit cooler. You do get the added on weapons. You get the cool color scheme, stuff like that. That actually makes it better, oddly enough. But it's still a Region Lays at its core, and that really does take away from it. While the quality is slightly better, and in fact, I do believe this scored higher than the regular Julietta's Region Lays, it's still really near the bottom. It's nowhere near as terrible as I said in the review, and I do actually like it more. It's just because it really truly is what it is. It's still not as good as a Gray's would be. Obviously, we saw a Gray's Ritter earlier that is better than this by quite a few points. But it's not terrible. In fact, the only thing that can actually beat this thing in being bad, the number one worst kit of 2017 is the standard Region Lays. Now, this thing suffered from most of the same problems that Julietta's Region Lays did, and it is just being this green. The fact that its weapons are still no better than that version, and it honestly does nothing new with the exception of changing one color. And that is definitely why it doesn't get a better score. Now, EOX Region Lays realistically just got 1 point above this, and that's just for the added changes to the kit. But for the most part, the quality is still down. It's still nowhere near as good as the kit is technically replacing. And the fact that this was a P Bandai for something that is legitimately the exact same kit we've already gotten before hurt it big time. At least EOX Region Lays came with the weapons and stuff like that molded in the proper color instead of having to paint it. So that's what saved EOX from the bottom, whereas this one totally at the bottom, with the exception, of course, of the petite guys. So the worst kit of 2017 is, boom, the P Bandai 2017 standard region lays. Now, of course, in this look, it actually seems cool, and I want to take it all back. I'm sorry. Now, there is a cool thing. Well, maybe it's a little bit of a difficult thing. There isn't exactly a top 5. There is kind of a top 10. So, incidentally, the way the numbers worked, there are 10 kits in the top 5. And you'll see what I mean, just numerically speaking. So, what we're going to look at is the 5-way tie for 5th place. And it sounds ridiculous, but I had to go by the numbers. And I even played with them. I'm like, I've got to figure out how to get these kits narrowed down, and I couldn't. I couldn't knock away any more points than I did. I couldn't add any more points than I did. And we're going to go at this, the number 5-way tie, and I'll go one by one, in kind of a ranking. So it's not, so just in the way the 5-way tie will work, we'll go from like what I think is the bottom of that, so you can really see the difference between how the different kits kind of work together. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 5-way tie for number 5. So first up in the number 5 spot is the P. Bandai Orga's Frame Sheeten. Now this thing really did good in quality because there's almost no stickers, and the Sheeten is just a great kit. It drops down just a little in articulation. It does have a few limitations. Not a lot, but just a few. The fun factor is about the same. But then the coolness of this being Orga's Sheeten, and of course the one that, of course, gets used at the end of the series finally, really does take it up a little bit above even the other P. Bandai version. So this guy kind of rounds it out at the bottom of the bottom of those numbers. I know that sounds really strange, but because you'll see what I mean when we get to the next couple kits. So let's go ahead and do that. So next in the number 5 spot, I know this is getting ridiculous, the Blue Destiny that we just looked at. It's very articulate. It's really cool. The quality is just a little bit low, and it's fun. But that's why it kind of ties with all these. There's nothing negative really to say about this kit, so I really have to just nitpick the little things. So the amount of stickers you have to put on, especially what this one would be. Of course, I painted all those, so that makes it a little bit different. However, there's a few things you need to paint just to make it accurate. The part swapping gimmick for a lot of the exam stuff, while it's cool, it's also kind of knocks off some of the fun. I really would like to have it a little bit more. Like if they came with a way to do all 4 heads, so you didn't have to, swap it out if you wanted to have an exam mode, regular game type head versus the manga head, that kind of stuff. But like I said, this is definitely not a bad kit by any means, and that's why it goes into this 5-way tie. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. Now, considering what was the top kit of 2016, it's funny that this one didn't get a little bit higher than it was. And it is the Big Blue Bull himself, the Helmvig Rankar. And you guys know that I absolutely love this thing. And that love doesn't necessarily translate into numbers, because it does take quite a lot to make this thing right. You have to paint the pipes to get them the right color, both on the arms and the legs. You have to paint little details here and there that don't even come as stickers, just to get this thing looking the way it should. The silver edge of the sword needs to be done, but there's no way to do it. Doesn't even come with anything like that. The articulation is a little bit limited due to the new design, and some of the gimmicks are a little bit dumb. But other than that, this is a very, very good kit, and I absolutely love this thing. But the fun and the cool factor couldn't really make up for the quality and the articulation losses. And once again, these are all tied. These all have the same score of 30. So that just shows you that they're all on equal footing for different reasons. So, this is an amazing kit, but there's still a few more that are above it, such as the King of Wolves himself. And apparently I can't, really pay attention to framing. This thing is very cool. The coolness factor is way up there. The fun factor with just the playability of this thing is way up there. However, the quality is down due to the sheer amount of stickers it would take, the sheer amount of paint it did take to make this thing, accurate. The articulation went down compared to a normal Gundam because of these new arms and even the new feet. So the where the joints are now kind of falling out a little bit due to probably a little bit of mold degradation. That hinders it a little bit, but the coolness, the fun factor are way up, really making this thing awesome. But like I said, that is showing you the difference, how the lesser quality of having to put so many stickers on a kit like this versus the coolness. And even this thing isn't, it's not that it's not articulate, but it's limited compared to even its previous versions. So that's why it's a little bit low. But hey, this big old scorpion tail hanging out here really takes it up a notch. So let's go ahead and look at the last of the 5-way tie, and it might surprise you. And last but certainly not least in the 5-way tie is the sledding Gundam itself, the Atlas. So realistically, while the quality is down because of the sheer amount of stickers, the sheer amount of paint work that you have to do on this, the articulation is off the charts. You've got so much going on here. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is also very, very cool. This is one of the best color schemes I've seen on a Gundam, probably ever, realistically. The weapons are really cool. The giant gun, even though I hate the way it functions, the blade shield itself is cool. The actual ski rockets they're cool. They're just not done well. And that's what really hurts this kit. The quality goes way down, and it was not fun. Now, while I had to up my game on painting to get this guy done, that didn't equate into fun so much as work. This thing took longer than it should have to build because I had to do all that extra work to it, and that hurt it emotionally for me. But like I said, coolness is way up and articulation is way up. So that's why it is where it is. It is in the top 5 at least. Quote unquote top 10. It's tied for 5th place for a reason, and it's because of this just being the awesome Gundam Atlas. Now, if we can get it actually doing something awesome in the series, that would be even better. Now, guys, finally moving on to the number 4 spot, and it is the Gundam Dandelion, or Dandelion, from IBO Gekko. And this thing wins out in a few factors. It wins out in articulation. The Gundam by itself is amazingly articulated, just like any of the other IBO Gundams. But then you also have the ridiculous, added, cowl here that gives it so much more. Now, where it does go down in points is, of course, in quality, because stickers and paint and this dumb connection for the sword all drag it down. But, the coolness, the fun factor, because it is a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun making this thing. I had a ton of fun playing with it for pictures. But the sheer amount of work that went into having to make this thing accurate hurts it. Because if they had made the kit to where it had these things, like see how I'm struggling just to get this dumb sword back in his hand, that hurts it. These stickers around the face does hurt it. They could have done a lot more to make this kit feel a bit more complete. Now, if we get the full cowl version, it will probably rank even higher than this thing does. But that's why it gets the number 4 spot, for being just awesome, being incredibly articulate, even for having giant, massive arms. And the gimmicks on it really do work. As the backpack, even if you have to prop it up, still works really well. The big old gun, big old sword gun, definitely helps it out. So that's why this thing comes in at number 4. And, that's why it's awesome. Now, once again, guys, there is a tie for the 3rd place. And one of these is more important than the other, although they're both good. So tying in with an equal score of 32 points is, first and foremost, the Gundam Floros Calamity War type. One of the best P-Bandai kits from IBO we have gotten. This thing is clean. It is menacing. It came with parts from the option parts set. It gave us an open hand we didn't even know we could have. The color scheme is awesome. I love this thing. I've raved about this constantly in the review. And while I love the regular Floros, this takes it to another level. So this thing was definitely worth the points. It's massively cool. It's massively articulated. I had a ton of fun messing with it, building it, everything. It's just, it brings out something different than even the standard Pink Ryusei Go version does. And that's why it comes up so high on the list to be tied for number 3. But the thing that it's tied with is probably more important. And the reason for that is it's the Regionlays Julia. Now, I've not reviewed this kit as of yet, but I did get it completed within 2017. And the reason this is so important is because of what the bottom kits are. The regular Regionlays, all the way back to Julietta's Regionlays from Season 1, that essentially was completely bottomed out. And I'm seeing that there's a lot of dust on it just from what I was doing the other day. This I did specifically to make up for that, to see if the evolved version of the Regionlays is truly better. And guys, it is. While this review is not done yet, I'll give you a minor one right now. All the things. It is articulate. It is very friggin' cool. The quality is up there, way over a standard Regionlays. The quality is up there. The joints are mostly the same, but all the bits they've added to this kit have really and truly changed it into a different beast, not just in how it looks. It leaves behind the bad legacy of the original Regionlays to truly become something new, and I absolutely love this thing in comparison. You guys know I hated the original Regionlays, still do. This kills that legacy of crap completely, and that's why it came all the way screaming up from the bottom last year to become tied at number 3. And if it wasn't up against that, it would have been number 3 on its own, and well deserved. And I can't wait to review this thing because it's just that good. Alright guys, so moving on to the number 2 spot. We have the Barzam. This thing shocked me realistically. The level of quality is decent for what it is. It does have some minor issues, just where you have to paint in some detail. But other than that, the fact where you don't have to do any work is impressive. Older kits would have made this a really crappy sticker. This thing realistically only came with, what, 6, 7 stickers total? That's it. Any paint detail I chose to do. It didn't have to be done, with the exception of these parts on the legs. It's ridiculously articulated. The kit itself is actually very, very good. It's super freaking cool. I mean, look at it. This thing is just awesome. Big blue monstrosity with legs for days. And the big command fin, or whatever the heck this technically is. Now, you guys know, I always have a problem with the tactical headphones. But realistically, I don't hate them on this thing. It's just so good. And I knew, even then, when I built it, this thing was going to be high up on the list. Now, there's only a couple ways it probably could have got a little bit better, and one of the ways would be the weird gun. I'm just not really a big fan, to be totally honest with it. It's not terrible. I'm just not that big a fan of the design. But this thing, like the Vice version, I would probably love that even more because of the white on it. It's like it overrides some of the colors I don't necessarily like about it, but taking out the objectiveness of color, I really do like this thing. It is a well-deserved number 2. But if this is number 2, can you guys guess what number 1 is? Well, realistically, you're gonna have to wait a minute because there's at least an honorable mention. Oh, and probably a break right now. Now, before we got into the final kits of the year, I wanted to go ahead and point out a one-of-a-kind kit, being that it's the only one I built this year, but it is certainly special. So for honorable mention goes to the RG Unicorn. So this thing really is changing up the game when it comes to RG kits. Now mind you, I've only built a couple, but a lot of people who build plenty of RG kits absolutely love this thing. Now, personally, it's just as fiddly as a master grade, but shrunk down. The engineering that went into this thing is amazing. The sheer amount of decals actually hurts it a little bit, although you sort of kind of have to either do it or don't do it. It really is. But other than that, this thing is ridiculous. Although it does look like the chrome right here is kind of wearing out. That's a little strange. But it's very fiddly. Some people have had breakage, stuff like that. But being probably the best RG that has ever existed, it's definitely getting an honorable mention here in the SHOKY Best and Worst list. So, best RG of the year obviously goes to the Unicorn. Now, with all of the other kits in the top 5, 10, looking on, the best kit of 2017. Extra long drum roll right here. Is Jim Jim. Jim Jim. Jim Jim Jim. It's the Jim Jim. Guys, if you couldn't tell in the review, this thing is ridiculous. It is one of the most articulated kits from this year, period. The price is good. You get 3 swappable heads. That's awesome. The only things that really kind of dropped this thing down, that wasn't at the top of everything, is the quality. The issues with the arms were pretty crappy, if I'm honest. And that's probably, and the thrusters falling off, and even like the shield connection is not great. Other than that, yeah, I forgot about the dome arm covers that keep popping off. Those are pretty much the only negatives I have to say about this kit. Like I said, it's stupid articulate. The quality, other than those weird small QC issues, there's almost no way to have nubs on this thing. It's just freaking cool. Like, the fact that you can swap out heads. I mean, I have the Jim Custom head on here. That's pretty cool. And the only thing that can make it even better and cooler is to give it more weapons in the actual kit instead of just this guy. But the sheer ability to take this with only a few minor modifications and make it into so many other things, like making it into a custom grandpa or even more. Just, this has so much unlimited potential, and that takes it beyond pretty much what else is here. I mean, even barring the King of Wolves, that is so friggin' ridiculous. This is one of the best kits I've built personally. And I also get to call it Jim Jam. Jim Jam. I have an excuse to say it that way. So that's it, guys. That is the best and worst kits that I've built this year. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the list, or what you even think about these kits yourself, or what is your list. Give me your top 5, because I clearly couldn't even have just a top 5. My top 5 is actually a top 10, but I think that all of these kits are well deserving in their own right. And even the ones that didn't necessarily score high on the list, they just were good for what they were. And that's really what matters when it even comes down to Tristan. Don't look at a kit for what it isn't. Don't hate it for what it isn't. Love it for what it is. And this thing in particular is so much more than so many other kits that came along. It blew things out of the water. But I'll catch you guys in the rest of 2018. So happy New Year's. I hope you guys have been safe and made it through till now. And I want to thank my patrons as always for sticking with me so that I can make videos like this one. If you guys are new here, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Go back and watch the 2016 list if you haven't seen it. I'll have it linked up here and probably in the back. And I'll have the links to every review with the exception of a couple that haven't been done as of the recording of this video. So every other review, so you can go see what the heck I'm talking about if you haven't. But guys, I'll catch you on the next review. And remember, as always, keep on building. And Jim Jim! Jim Jim Jim. Jim Jim.